Take it away, Krusty.
What the hell is that?
Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Doctor Who, Series 15, Season 2, Episode 8. The season concludes with The Reality War. Written by Russell T Davies. As always, there is a blanket spoiler warning in place because I may decide to talk about spoilers. For this episode, I'm definitely going to talk about spoilers. So if you do not wish to be spoiled, Doctor Who streams in the UK on BBC iPlayer and streams internationally on Disney+. And how to sum up my overall thoughts on the episode? Okay, here's one. If you know me, I haven't talked about it as much as some of my other Doctor Who takes, but if you know me, my least favorite episode in all of Doctor Who, Classic Who, New Who, the entire show, the episode I hate the most, is Series 9, Episode 2, The Witch's Familiar. The Reality War is so bad, I am debating whether or not it is taking the place of The Witch's Familiar for the episode I hate the most. And looking at fandom reactions, just seeing kind of fandom reactions online, all I'm really feeling is vindication. People, Doctor Who fans, are finally starting to hate Russell T Davies as much as I always have since his first era. Like, again, just one of my repeated takes. RTD1 is one of my least favorite era, in all of Doctor Who. I'm going to reserve judgment for RTD2 until it comes to a close, because who knows, he may still have a chance to course correct. It's Russell T Davies, so that's very unlikely, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But people were a fan of Russell T Davies. They loved his first era. I didn't. The 10th Doctor is my least favorite Doctor. And seeing people complain about the things that he's done this season, that he's done this episode, it's like, yeah, he's done this since his first era. Why are you surprised now? But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. I'm just feeling vindication. The name of the game here is pointless. Like I mentioned last week with Wish World, the Reality War was going to have an extended runtime. And I thought that might potentially be a good thing, because the way Wish World set up the second half, there were so many dangling plot threads that needed to be addressed. So Davies' approach was, oh, they don't actually matter. Everything's pointless. And I don't know if I'm going to go into a breakdown of the episode itself. I might, don't misunderstand, but I just might go into the things that really bother me with this episode. This episode is really problematic. I've had a couple of days to sleep on it and think about it, and I just have so many problems. A lot of them are Davies' fault, because this is all in his execution, and it's the same execution he always does. A lot of this might be behind the scenes drama. I don't think drama's the right word, but you'll get what I mean. Because one of the things that started coming to light is that the ending was rewritten. I don't know at what point in production it was rewritten, but because if you remember, the filming for Series 15 began pretty much after Series 14 wrapped. So, there was a gap year last year where all we got was Joy to the World. And then, so I don't know at what point it wrapped, but I think it was because, at least the popular theory seems to be that it's because of the Disney deal. And one of the things we saw recently in the news cycle was that Doctor Who is moving away from being exclusively on the BBC iPlayer, and it's moving back to airing on the BBC. And that's going to happen regardless of what's going on with Disney, because Disney, who again is the international distributor, is kind of dragging their feet at the moment on renewing the deal. Sources seem to cite that Disney isn't happy with the poor viewership of Doctor Who. We're not going to get into the whole viewership thing. So do not, because rage merchants and hate mongers always try to bring up, oh, low viewing figures as a big catch-all, as a big gotcha for how they think Doctor Who is going down the drain. Viewership isn't relevant to quality, so we won't go there. But yeah, putting all that aside, like I said, I think a lot of the issues are with how the ending was rewritten. Because I feel like, I wonder now what the original ending was. But anyway, that's a question for another day. So let's talk about what we have and all of the problems this episode has. Because this episode is trying to do a lot. And it's not given the time to do it. And even then, there is one scene where the Ronnie shows up just as the Doctor is bringing Unit back to their senses. And then the Ronnie shows up. And it's just 10 minutes of exposition. Like her and the Doctor talking about backstory and lore and what the Ronnie's ultimate plan is. I will say, there is kind of a course correction with the Ronnie here, which I appreciate. It doesn't fix everything. She's still megalomaniacal. She's written like the Master. But the fact that her plan to restore Gallifrey, which again, ripped off from Davies' earlier era, and her plan now to create it in her own image, giving the Ronnie this eugenics angle, it does help a little bit. It doesn't fix every problem with this version of the Ronnie, but again, the eugenics angle is more in line with what her character is supposed to be, so it is a bit of a course correction. And there is one other thing that really works. And keep in mind, the things that work for this episode are incredibly minute. That should tell you how bad this episode is. The only other thing I really liked about this episode is the Jodie cameo. So yeah, at the end, after everything is seemingly fixed, Ruby still notices something is wrong, and everyone comes to this realization that the universe is off by 1 degree, whatever that means. And the Doctor realizes there's only one way to fix it. So because the universe is out of whack, the 13th Doctor shows up to try and talk him out of it, because if he messes up, the consequences will be catastrophic. I love this scene. It is the highlight of the episode, and it's such a minor thing. Again, let that tell you something about how bad this episode is. But it also reasserts a a theory I've had for a while. From the novel Damaged Goods to the audio drama Mind of the Hodiak, Russell is much better at writing for pre-existing Doctors than he is at creating his own. So let's go on with that. Let's just break down every problem I have with this episode. So, Susan showing up, communicating in the Interstellar Song Contest, communicating with the Doctor telepathically, saying, come find me, all this cryptic stuff like that. Showing up briefly in Wish World as one of the things to snap the Doctor back to reality. Not addressed here. All of that was pointless. Rogue also showing up, trying to get the Doctor to snap out of the confinement of the Wish World and coming back to reality. Doesn't matter. All of that was pointless. Here's the thing, because like I said, a lot of what this episode is doing just builds up to doesn't matter, and it comes off as being pointless. There is a lot in this episode, and I want to address the pointless stuff before I start addressing the stuff that really makes me mad, so I'm trying to remember what else was there. I can't remember off the top of my head, so let's go into the other things. Conrad! So the episode has this entire angle where Ruby's entire plotline is confronting Conrad, trying to talk him down and give up the magic wish baby to try and undo everything he did. And his far right-wing ideology is rooted in just wanting acceptance. So Ruby appeals to him, reminding him, hey, were you really faking, or when we were dating, were you really having a good time? It comes down to all Conrad ever wanted was validation. And at the end, when reality gets rewritten, Conrad gets a happy ending. I really want to flip off my camera right now because of that. Like, again, one of my things with Lucky Day was that it was an episode we desperately needed, going after far-right grifters and how far they're willing to go, to force their ideology on everyone else. And the fact that Wishworld, the Conrad stuff was the best part of Wishworld, and now we're just giving him a free pass? And we're excusing him? Russell, what the heck? This needs to be said. And I think it's something we need to come to terms to. As much as we want to help everyone, some people and some actions cannot be forgiven. And just the Conrad stuff circles back to one of the big problems with the Interstellar Song Contest. The whole, let's try to be centrist and both sides genocide. It's doing the same thing here. The politics of this episode are a mess. Which brings me into my second thing. Belinda? Completely wasted. It is, again, I don't know how much of this was the fact that the ending was rewritten, but it comes down to, I think it's clear Russell really had no idea what Belinda was going to do, and I think it's clear that I've liked her less and less as the series has gone on, and most of what I like about her is Virata Sethu, but just it's very clear because like I noticed, like I said previously, way back during The Well, it became obvious that Russell was abandoning her character arc. And now it's just, oh, she's a happy, content mother who wanted to get back to her child. Yep, so Belinda's relegated to a housewife. There's a lot of sexist overtones in this story. Like, at the beginning, the doctor is saved by Anita, remember, from Joy to the World. And, first of all, as the manager, she has a magic key that can open a door anywhere, which is not how the Time Hotel worked. It was always the locked doors in hotel rooms that you could never access or open. So that spits in the face of Joy to the World. Also, Anita's portrayal here spits in the face of Joy to the World. The second act of Joy to the World, where the doctor is stranded for a year and spends it with Anita, that was the best part of the episode. They're building friendship, the understandings they reach. And now we get, Anita was in love with the doctor, looking for him, and when she saw him with Rogue, she decided to go to another man, and the first man she went to got her pregnant. Which, again, just Belinda is happy having her history rewritten and now being a single mom. Anita, heartbroken because she couldn't be with the doctor, which was never set up in Joy to the World, is now happy being pregnant and being a mother. Again, there are, saying, these women are only happy in heteronormative situations. There is a lot of sexist overtones to this episode, and there are a lot of homophobic overtones to this episode as well, because Ncuti Gatwa, the 15th Doctor, is the first Doctor explicitly written to be gay. It's not like Jodie, where everyone kind of picked up on it as the series progressed, so they kind of wrote it in as a woman coming to terms with her sexuality. How well that worked or not is irrelevant to this, but, from the beginning, the 15th Doctor was designed as gay. And at every instance, from Anita to Belinda to Poppy, trying to force these heteronormative standards onto the Doctor in this idea that this is what will make him happy, that reads as incredibly homophobic. And again, Russell, how did you pull that off? How did you not see this? And there are other problems too, like all the lore stuff, which I'm not going to get too in the weeds to. I'll talk a little bit about it, but here, let me just say this. Showrunners should not be confined to series lore. I can understand why that would be an issue, feeling more restricted by having to accommodate all of the lore. They should be free to change what they want. Not exactly retcon. I feel like if there's an aspect or something you don't like, retconning is not the answer, just ignoring it is, but you should be free to change what you like, but it should still come from a place of respect. And everything Russell does in this episode with the lore, it feels like he does not respect the show. I feel like there are changes you can make while respecting the show, and Russell isn't doing that. So that brings me up to something else I was talking about in my earlier tangent. By generation. Pointless. And also it kind of contradicts what Russell had already set up. So if you remember in The Giggle, after they bi-generated, the 15th Doctor told the 14th Doctor, this was a weird time schism thing. Eventually, you are going to properly regenerate into me. And then at some point in my life, I will come back around to do this. And here, in the reality war, it's pretty much just shrugged off as life finds a way. Kind of an evolutionary thing to keep the Time Lords from going extinct, because the Time Lords are sterile. So, anything to avoid the looms, huh? And then Omega. Oh, don't get me started on Omega. Really. That was not Omega. Even if you try to, where do I even begin on Omega? Because Omega was one of the founding Time Lords along with Rassilon. Omega detonated the Eye of Harmony, giving the Time Lords the ability to time travel, and in doing so, he was trapped in an antimatter universe. I still haven't seen Arc of Infinity, so I don't know what happened after that. But then this whole, he's bought into his legend, he's become a god, he is the Mad Titan. And we get big scary monster. Russell. Again, Russell does not respect Doctor Who. He calls himself a fan, he does show some interest in the series, but he clearly does not respect work that isn't his own. But so yeah, Omega was just so disappointing. It's one of the worst aspects of the series. And then he eats the Ronnie. So glad to know the Ronnie was almost entirely pointless. But hopefully, because he eats the Archie Punjabi Ronnie, but Mrs. Flood survives and escapes. So hopefully, a writer or a showrunner will do something with the Ronnie again and do it good, I hope. And that means we can still get the Archie Punjabi Ronnie back. Again, I like the Ronnie as a character. I don't like Russell's execution. I like Archie Punjabi as an actress. I don't like how he did the Ronnie. So I hope the fact that Mrs. Flood survives means we will get the Ronnie at some point in the future. And, under a writer or showrunner or both, that will know how to handle the character properly. And trying to recall everything, I've gone over everything. Just how much of all the setups Russell did just for the payoff to be, they were pointless and didn't matter, to the misogynist and homophobic overtones of this story, to Russell's complete disrespect for the canon and lore, which again, he can change it if he wants, but it kind of has to come from a place of respect, which in his execution, he does not demonstrate at all. So let's talk about the big thing. Probably the biggest change when this episode was rewritten. This is Ncuti's regeneration story. And first of all, his final lines are really bad. Going back to other doctors, and they're New Who doctors, let's say. I won't get to Classic Who, we'll be here all day. But their final lines were always thematic to them and their arcs, or they were indicative of them as characters. Ncuti's aren't. Like, again, it's just like Russell did not pay it, like with the by generation thing. It's like Russell did not pay attention to what he was doing. And then the big thing, the thing that is setting everyone off, the regeneration. We met our 16th Doctor, Billy Piper. I'm screaming on the inside right now. This was such an incredibly stupid decision. First of all, it's rehashing the twist with the 14th Doctor. But whereas there was some justification for that with, the 60th anniversary, and again, despite my issues with the 14th Doctor, the character arc in those stories was really well done. Doing it here just reeks of desperation. It's like, again, because Disney is dragging their feet on renewing the distribution deal, it feels like this is a desperation move from Russell. Like, oh, here, see what happens. We're going to pull you in with this, with making a companion the Doctor now. Like, this is a move that reeks of desperation. And it looks like I'm already on edge because Rose Tyler is my least favorite companion. No fault to Billy Piper. She's a fine actress. She's really good in Day of the Doctor. She's good in Series 1. Most of my problems with Rose are when she becomes a companion to David Tennant. But just, I'm already grinding my teeth because Billy Piper's first time in Doctor Who I didn't like. And again, no fault to Billy. She's a fine actress. And again, just the desperation this reeks of. But also because he is recycling a twist. Russell is recycling a twist. I kicked my camera, excuse me. He's already done. And like, it's really annoying watching the fandom on this because they're like, oh, but the New Who tradition is always introducing blank as the Doctor. It just says introducing Billy Piper. It doesn't say as the Doctor. She can't be 16. Just stop it. Like, it's Russell T Davies. She's going to be 16. Furthermore, these excuses just feel like a defense. Don't defend this. Don't justify it. The reality world is bad. Like, even just coming fresh off it, I know I've waited a couple days, just coming fresh off it, it already stands up as one of the worst episodes of the show. But those are just my thoughts on it. Have you seen The Reality War? What are yours? Start a conversation in the comments below. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload, and in the description box below, you'll find the link to my Bluesky, where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.